Hello and welcome to Cube 3's Blasted Wall, episode 97. Today we've got a jam-packed show ready for you, and we've got our usual crew and cast members ready. We've got site contributor Mike McCann.
Hello.
We've got the social media managers Sandy Kirchner-Wilson.
Hey.
And Luke Hemming.
Hello.
And on today's show, we are going to talk about a multiple number of news items, things that are so topical this week. We're going to start with the Game Awards 2020. We're going to talk about how the new Smash Brothers Ultimate Fighter reveal has sort of taken the internet by storm. We're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 and how that release has sort of gone down for everybody. And then we're going to transgress into a few other topics, such as accents in video games and why Activision and EA are perhaps avoiding the Switch. So first, let's start with the Game Awards 2020 and how that has sort of merged into becoming the new E3. Now, I'm not sure if everybody here actually stayed up for the showcase, because in the UK, it started at 11:30 p.m. It wasn't advertised by the Game Awards. They tweeted out every time zone imaginable, but left the UK. We've sort of just left this sort of gaming sphere, perhaps, here in the UK. But did any of you guys watch it? Or watch it back at least?
Yep.
Yeah,
me and Luke stayed up.
We stayed up far too late for it.
It was, yeah. It kept going on.
It did
like
drag
WrestleMania.
on. Yeah, I mean, we won't necessarily talk about the winners of each of these categories because I think it's a bit too much. They don't seem to give it enough attention, let alone us. So let's talk about what was actually unveiled in the actual show. Well, did you guys, just without even looking, do you guys recall anything that actually was unveiled in that show? And if you do, shout it out.
Perfect Dark was the big one for me.
Yeah.
That
New Mass Effect.
Just took me completely by surprise. That did, and then wasn't expecting it at all. And look, the trailer was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, new Mass Effect, new Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Luke, can you recall anything?
No, I was going to say Mass Effect. That's literally all I could remember.
Well, okay. Well, I'll give you a slight, quick rundown here.
Super Meat Boy was given a release date.
Yes, Super Meat Boy Forever.
Yes.
I remember that.
Let me go down from the sort of the recap of announcements, and this is thanks to TechRadar.com, who've nicely done this for us. So, the new Mass Effect trailer. It could be Mass Effect 4. It could be subtitled something else. We've seen Master Chief and also Kratos added to Fortnight. That's absolute crazy stuff, and I think we'll get into that in just a second. Evil Dead, the game.
Yes.
That
Game I requested, yeah.
Outriders, Super Meat Boy Forever got a launch date trailer. It's coming on the 23rd of December, so not too long. The Vin Diesel helmed Arc 2. I actually think that was
big news. Yeah.
That was big news because it came with a sort of an animated show as well on top of that, which I think is going to be quite good. It's got a very stellar cast as well.
Me and Luke thought it was Two Rock at the time. We were like, "Is this the new Two Rock?"
Totally convinced it was Two Rock because who remembers Ark?
Yeah. Open world adventure game Crimson Desert. Can't remember that. A new roguelite tactical game called Endless Dragon. Disco Elysium, the final cut, is coming back to PS5, Switch, and Xbox. Dragon Age 4. Although it was a very,
very small, wasn't it?
Yeah, very small trailer. Warhammer 40,000 Darktide trailer. Don't actually remember seeing the Warhammer trailer. Epic Game Store is offering a limited time Unreal Tournament weapons bundle. Yay. Perfect Dark, Back for Blood, and we will talk about the other reveal in our next topic. But yeah, so there's quite a few games there. I've just named them all. Now that I've said them all, Luke, is there something that sort of sticks in your mind a bit more?
Yeah, everything's come back to me now.
It's all come flooding back.
I don't know which one you named, but it was the one that looked very, very similar to Panzer Dragoon. I'm guessing the one that said dragon in it.
I would have liked you to told me. I do remember seeing a very Panzer Dragoon-esque
Yeah,
game. But I can't remember the name.
Elder Dragon or something.
Is it a bad sign that I thought it was Lair making a return?
No, we
yeah,
thought
no,
we
I
thought that
Ross
as well
were
for a
on, yeah, as
second.
well.
Yeah. But
Time for
Evil
a
Dead,
comeback.
Evil Dead, I was excited about because I love those movies, and
Yeah.
that is one of the games that I've requested to review when it comes out.
Yeah. And Sandy, now I've also gone through all of them. Is there anything there from the Game Awards 2020 reveals that's sort of taking your fancy?
I mean, it keeps just coming back to Perfect Dark and Mass Effect for me. Can't wait for them. Even just being teased about them, it's like, I want them.
And Mike, obviously avoiding the big one, which we'll talk about in the next topic. Is there anything else that we've? You said Perfect Dark as well, didn't you?
Perfect Dark was definitely my I don't know what, the seal of approval for the show or whatever. You know what I mean? That was that blew me away. That reveal.
Yeah.
So really good.
No, I do think that this is actually really important because we haven't had E3 this year. We've had a smattering of showcases throughout the summer. Some of them delivered big news, some of them didn't. But I felt like this was the real big event of the year. Funnily enough, there was no Gamescom, there was no E3, TGS was not really around. So I, in one way, I do feel like this is a really important showcase, and I think the Game Awards have definitely stepped themselves up. Was it justified though? Would you prefer to see more of the awards side of things? Do you guys even remember what awards were giving out? I've got them listed here in front of me. I can cheat, but
I think I preferred the format just for the time zone for us to have an award show starting at 11:30. It, like Mike said, it's like, I suppose it's like watching the Hall of Fame the night before WrestleMania. It's something you're interested in, but when it hits that third, fourth hour, you can't remember anything about it. Whereas when there's always that thrill of maybe there's a big announcement coming, you tend to stay that bit more focused, I reckon.
Yeah, I have to admit, like you said there, WrestleMania Hall of Fame, you get into about the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock time here in the UK, and you start to lag. You're like, your eyes starting to drop. And I felt like that with the Game Awards. I watched the last hour laying down in bed, like just trying to keep my eyes open. And there might be another announcement that I really want to see. But ultimately, there wasn't too much really for me. I felt like one of those press conferences that was going on, and you'd at E3 even, and you'd watch it and you kind of think, oh yeah, okay, this has a lot of promise, and you watch the whole press conference and there's not much in there for you. Not to put it down, I do think that the way they presented it and the amount of reveals they had. And they had really big IP and games that people are really excited about. It's just not necessarily the games I was too excited about. What was the best part of the night for you, Sandy, overall? I know you probably didn't watch it as it was, but if of the highlights that you watched, Perfect Dark still?
I mean, the highlights that I did watch were mostly focused on the trailers, so I don't really have a good overview of what was the most interesting thing in the night.
To be fair, you didn't miss much then, because the way that they sort of churned out the awards, they had a pre-show presented by Sydney Goodman, and they just flew for awards. They would just literally, this game has won an award, this game's won an award, this game's won an award, and now on to the next trailer. So you didn't really miss too much there, but I'm just going to fly through some of these awards here. That
They did have a few big guests though.
that is true.
I don't know if you know, but
We'll talk about one of their key guests in a moment. Actually, let's just fly through these awards. So, best narrative winner, Last of Us Part 2. Best art direction winner, Ghost of Tsushima. Best score and music winner, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best audio design winner, Last of Us Part 2. Best performance winner, Laura Bailey as Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. Games for Impact winner, Tell Me Why by Dotnod Entertainment. Best ongoing game winner is No Man's Sky. I'm fairly certain that won that last year as well. Best indie game winner is Hades. Best mobile game winner is Among Us. Best community support winner is Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Best VR is Half-Life Alyx. Innovation in accessibility, Last of Us Part 2. Not quite sure. That was the award I think where Reggie Fils-Aimé presented. I think that's what you probably were alluding to there, just a second ago, Mike. What was really interesting about Reggie?
Name.
Yeah. What was really interesting about Reggie presenting that award was that he went on to talk about his time at Nintendo and how they were innovators of accessibility and how they really wanted to make their consoles accessible, from the Wii and the Nintendo DS and the Switch. Somehow just leaving out the 3DS and the Wii U there. It seems to be an era that they seem to be deleting from their minds anyway. Best action adventure game is Last of Us Part 2. Best RPG win is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best fighting game, Mortal Kombat 11. Best family game, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Best sim strategy game winner is Microsoft Flight Simulator, also coming to Xbox Series X. That should be a really good game. One that you're going to be really happy with here, Luke, and one that I was quite happy with. Best sports racing game winner was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Dirt 5, F1 2020, FIFA 21, NBA 2K21 were the other nominees in that category.
No chances there.
Best multiplayer game was Among Us, and Game of the Year was Last of Us Part 2. Best game direction as well was also Last of Us Part 2. So I think Last of Us Part 2 was quite popular on the night, as you can tell. But when you listen to these awards and when you see these awards, do you think there are too many of them? Do you think it sort of dulls your senses when the same game, you keep seeing the same 4 or 5 games pop up in every other category? It just feels a bit mundane, right?
Maybe that's a category issue. Maybe they need to be expanding a bit more on what they're looking for rather than those standard things. But then you potentially then are going to add another 3 hours onto your show.
True.
Although you could do it all in the pre-show again. That pre-show was like half hour.
Yeah. I don't know. There were a few other categories there which actually they didn't highlight, which were things like Esports Manager of the Year, Best
Did I win
YouTube, Best YouTube Content Creators of the Year, Cube 3.
I remember. We got our
genuine category there. So yeah, they have diversified in some way, but I feel like some of the games themselves, it's the same 5 games popping up every thing, and they literally reeled off the winner as quickly as I reeled them off there. Mm-hmm. Honestly, no word of a lie, they spent about 10 seconds on each category and moved on. There were some that did warrant a snippet of a trailer, but yeah. Okay, well let's transgress into one of the most important parts of that night, and that actually came at the very start of the awards. They started with it. It was something that I was quite surprised about, which made me think, have they got another one at the end? But that was the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate character reveal. I never saw this one coming, but Sandy, Luke, Mike, I think you all at one point last week, whether we had it recorded or not, mentioned that it was going to be a Square Enix character. Luke, I vividly remember you saying, we're playing on Midgar right now, why could it not be another Final Fantasy character? Tell us about who you thought it was going to be initially and how you've reacted to the news.
I still had my hopes firmly pinned on Sora, but I'm really surprised that with a Final Fantasy character that I'm not surprised it's Final Fantasy VII, because I think that is the most mainstream and easily the most popular. But I thought it would be a different class of character. I thought it would be Tifa, to be honest. A nice fighter. Not that Smash Brothers doesn't need another person with a sword. There's not any of them in Smash Brothers. But it's a happy one.
The length of the sword is quite interesting. Like, that could change things up quite a bit, couldn't it?
Yeah, you look like you can have a lot of distance and keep a lot of people at bay with it.
We've not even mentioned his name. Sephiroth. From Final Fantasy VII has joined the Smash Brothers roster, and he should be coming up very soon. I think Nintendo are actually teeing up a special edition with Sakurai. The sort of half an hour situation. I think that literally goes live very shortly tonight. Sandy, so obviously you watched this back on a replay. Did you already know about this? I know we had a WhatsApp group with the chat going on. Did you switch on when I said holy bleep?
No, I was totally oblivious until I watched the trailer, and I was like, wow, That's actually pretty rad. I wasn't expecting him.
Yeah. Now, the trailer opened up with a sort of, it looked like maybe like a World of Light expansion. It was going to be, there was a cinematic trailer with all the characters there, some of the new DLC characters and voice acting and stuff. And we saw the main bad person, I can't remember his name, Galileo.
Oh, no, I was going to say Galahim, but that's Zelda, isn't
Zelda,
it? Yeah.
I have to Google this. I'm sorry, guys.
We can just call him Mr. Woolly Wings.
Mr. G.
Mr. G.
Mr. G. Galeem. His name is Galeem. I was very close. So Galeem was descending down with all his master hands, and before we saw that happen, and they absolutely wiped out the entire roster apart from Kirby, because Kirby's a legend. But this time we seem to have a bigger badass there, and that is Sephiroth. Sephiroth tore Galeem in two, and then Cloud obviously looks up at him, shouts his name out, and then we see Sephiroth just absolutely killing everybody, including Nintendo's mascot, or for at least 10 seconds there. I was thinking, oh my god, they've impaled Mario. No wonder it had to start time at midnight. But no, Mario got off very unscathed.
It does make you wonder how violent they're going to make it.
Yeah.
Become character 5.
Most of that stuff as well was shot for shot Advent Children. I
really was.
I had to check that they hadn't just taken it from Advent Children and thrown a Mario just in there. But it was pretty impressive. And anyone who thinks Sephiroth isn't a worthy addition is like 8 and wants something from Fortnite, because Sephiroth's a badass.
Is there anyone here who was a bit disappointed with Sephiroth?
I mean, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy guy. I mean, I've played them, but he's cool. He's a cool character, though.
I will say he's a cool character. I would say he's a cool character, but you know what? I prefer to have a bit of a diversity there, because now when you've got 2 Final Fantasy VII characters in there, and you've only got 1 Sonic character, you've only got 1. Okay, fine. We've got 2 Street Fighter characters, I guess, but I don't know. For me, I felt like he's a great addition. I'm not complaining at all. I don't care about the whole sword fighter situation either. That doesn't bother me. But I would have preferred to see a character from a different franchise that would bring more music. That would bring a sort of different stage. I feel like Sephiroth. Yeah, I mean, look. Obviously, come on, you've got something to say about that, surely.
No, I do agree with you. I don't think you'll get better music than One Winged Angel, which is going to be in there now.
Did you recognise that? So obviously, when the music started playing, and I didn't know until Cloud was a spoiler person there. He said it before we ever saw him.
Mike, we were watching it live. I think I said to you, didn't I, when those first few bars kicked in, I was like, that's One Winged Angel, that's Sephiroth's theme. And
I think you said it was like one of the finest songs ever written.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I noticed then, but even then, when you hear that, you're like, they won't put in another Final Fantasy character. But then, like you said, Cloud's face dropped. I've gone to another game, and you're still following me around all these franchises.
Now, last week, I can't remember if this was actually on the stream that we recorded or not, but we did talk about Final Fantasy VII, and you did. I'm fairly certain one of you guys mentioned about the fact that everyone's trying to push Final Fantasy at the moment. I don't know if that made it into the final cut or not, but it's amazing that you guys practically called it. Albeit, like, you didn't. I don't remember you guys saying Sephiroth per se, but you were so close. You were so on the money nearly. I stayed up later that night thinking there's going to be another one.
Yeah, I did as well.
I'm not disappointed. It's hard to be disappointed with such a great roster of characters. I just wish there was a bit more of a diversity there. But nonetheless, maybe Mike, I think maybe you're my ally in this sort of situation, is that we've both played Final Fantasy, but I'm not too fussed about it. Now, if this means that they're bringing a Final Fantasy VII remake to Switch, well, that'll be an interesting thing. But I just don't see it really myself. Okay, well, if there was going to be another sort of character reveal in any game, from any game, sorry, into Smash, then I think we've got one character left. Name a franchise. You don't necessarily have to name another game. But if it's another Nintendo, just a Nintendo franchise, that's fine. If you want it to be first party, but if there's a third, I think if there's only one slot left, there's a third party character from another company. Is there someone that you guys can think of from the top of your head?
When you were talking about Sonic, I was thinking Biggs the Cat.
Oh, God.
It's time to shine, isn't it? You know, that'd be great. Final Smash could be Froggy.
I really hope Nintendo aren't listening. Personally, I prefer to see more first party at this point. I would love to see Rayman, like I said, or Crash Bandicoot, like I said last week, or even Beat from Jet Set Radio. That'd be great. But if there was another Nintendo first party character there that I think really warranted to get in, then definitely put them in. Sandy, Luke, do you have any final words on Smash?
I was still all in for Sora, but we've got another guy from Square now, so I think I'm with you. Something first party. Birdo. Not Birdie from Street Fighter Alpha. Yeah, people love him. He was great.
Yeah. No, I mean
we could always have a Cordyceps zombie from Last of Us 2. Now that it's got all those awards.
Well, yeah, that is probably the last. Now, if they were going to go third party and they were to bring a Sony representative in, then who would we really kind of go for? I mean,
Astrobot.
Parappa.
Astrobot's probably.
Astrobot would probably be a good mashup.
What about
Parappa? But see, he's in PlayStation All Stars. He can't come to Smash.
It's true. People thinking maybe Kratos as well, God of War. Maybe you could even get Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. That would be really interesting. Again, though, another Square Enix character, although originally their IP.
PlayStation All Stars had Ratchet and Clank as well, didn't it? Or did it just have Jak and Daxter? Because Ratchet and Clank would be a great addition.
That would be amazing if one of those kind of, or even Jak and Daxter as well. If any of those characters made it over, that would be huge. That would be one of the biggest crossovers that anyone's ever done, ever. I mean, it already is, but if it was to get that far. The other thing, just before we leave the sort of Game Awards thing, was the fact that both Kratos and Master Chief are now in Fortnite. If Nintendo were to send a representative over to Fortnite, who do you guys think it should be? I mean, Mario obviously would be that sort of sort of key first party choice, but I don't think this is necessarily the most friendly. He was shooting guns and rabbits though, right? Mario Rabbids.
Sniper Luigi, isn't it? Sniper Luigi.
Yeah. Mario Kart 8 Luigi.
Yeah.
Dester
Luigi.
Yeah, if they got him shooting guns in Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, I can't see why he couldn't just bring over those types of guns Fortnite, and he can only use, I don't know, whatever guns he was using in that.
Yeah, maybe.
There's only one other character I can think of that is probably a bit shooty, but Nintendo focused at the moment going into 2021, and that will be having Samus in Fortnite.
That works.
But
that'd be pretty good.
Whether they'll do it is interesting, but Nintendo seem to be lacking on that Fortnite front. So
yeah, could have different guns being different beams.
Right. Well, speaking of different guns and different beams, makes no sense what I'm about to talk about. But Cyberpunk 2077, guys, the game is out. You guys were so hyped for it. Day one, you're in there, you're ready to play, you're having great fun with it, right, Luke, Mike?
Yeah, I am having great fun with it. Every so often.
So, just for everybody's sort of idea, so Cyberpunk 2077 launched last week on PC, PS4, Xbox One. You can play it also on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. I believe the enhanced versions are coming very shortly. On PC, which is where the reviewers reviewed it for, the game was getting 9s and 10s across the board, apart from a controversial GameSpot review, which gave it 7 out of 10. Everyone cited a few bugs here and there, but vast majority of the time people were quite happy with it. They still gave it a 10 despite there being quite a few performance issues. But Luke, you've got it on what, PlayStation 4?
Yes, I'm playing it on the PS5, but I got the PS4 version.
And tell us the sort of situation that you're having. Tell us your sort of
Not as good a situation as Mike. um, the first day, compared to the second, I say the graphics were night and day. Like, they were so different, and I was amazed. Like, this wasn't what I was expecting from what to look at. But you live with that, obviously.
well, be a bit more descriptive. Were they really good? Were they really bad?
Really, really blurry. So
Okay.
not much draw distance, lot of pop up. But I saw the
Did you
controversy
liken it to
coming.
a game? Was that like N64 levels of blurry and pop up?
It wasn't like South Park, like,
Right, okay.
but it was definitely noticeable, and the textures weren't as sharp as. I was playing Watch Dogs the night before, the PS5 version of Watch Dogs, and that looked so different. And regardless of how good the game was, that was a bit of a gut punch to think like this should be looking like a PS5 title, because everything I've seen in trailers has suggested that it will look this good. Turned it on the next day, and it looked exactly as it should. I did a bit of setting tweaking, but the issues I'm having is that those settings aren't staying. Every time I turn it on, I lose. So I've turned off motion blur. I've turned off chromatic aberration, I think. Those kind of things, and it's really made the world a difference.
Okay.
But I'm seeing those bugs that everyone is talking about. I have about 40 minutes gameplay before I have a total crash, which boots me out. I've played it 9 times, and in 8 of those sessions I've been booted.
Now, this isn't just exclusive to the PS5 or 4 version. This is happening on Xbox as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, I understand that you're having a slightly better time with the game. Explain why.
Yeah, well, I've been playing it on PC, and I'm almost feeling slightly guilty.
As you should.
It's been running perfectly, so I've been playing it on a 2060 Super, and even then, but on the previews for the games, everyone was previewing it running on 3070s, and I was like, is it even going to run on my 2060 Super? But it's running beautifully on it. I've had one crash in the time I've been playing it, which is slightly worrying. So even though I haven't seen, apart from that being the only issue, there's always that element of kind of like, there's some kind of game-breaking, horrendous bug around the corner which is gonna completely ruin my time with this game, because the experience I'm having with it is actually really good so far.
Okay. And so, Sandy, obviously you and I were very much on the fence about this before. Has this sort of scared you off a little bit, or are you just waiting to see what happens? Because obviously underneath all these bugs and the issues that Luke was just describing there is a gem of a game, as Mike was just describing. Is that something that still interests you, or are you put off?
Given the bugs in the console versions, which scares me a little bit about buying it because I don't have a next-gen console or anything like that, there is probably never going to be a perfect fix for those last-gen versions. I would be interested in buying it on PC, given that people are saying it is more stable, but my PC is also technically last-gen. But the experience that people are sharing, like all these cool screenshots of like awesome characters with like cool motorbikes and all this stuff, I'm genuinely interested in picking up the game. It hasn't damaged its reputation with me, really. I expect big games like this to be semi-broken on release, as is the, I don't know, last 10 years of open world games.
Yeah, this is becoming more and more of an issue, and people normally would say they vote by their wallets, but interestingly, people seem to now also be voting by the stock market. CD Projekt Red's stock was down 29% after the release of the game, and there's probably a few people that are a bit more worried about it. Even more so now, because they're offering refunds. Sony offering refunds, at least, on the PlayStation Store. I think you might be able to get a refund if you bought it digitally, Luke, but this isn't necessarily good. Obviously, we've heard, it's probably been the story all year round, where we've been talking about crunch with CD Projekt Red. There's a lot of developers complaining about the issues that are going on internally. They probably still needed a few more months with it. They've also announced that to sort of remedy the bugs and the issues that they're having, they're going to have a few more patches released until 2021. Is this good enough? Is this a good enough response? Are you guys willing to wait it out, or should they have just waited until February 2021?
Personally, I think they should have waited. I could have waited, but maybe that's the pressure that the public were putting on them with these crunches, with the threats they were getting. Like, I am totally with Mike. Like, make no doubt about it. It's a fantastic game. Mike and I have both said there's a potentially this could be game of the year for us. I'm totally immersed in the world. I think it's an incredible story. The quests that I'm doing are always engaging, and it is a brilliant game. There's a reason I keep going back to it when it crashes every single time that I play it, and I lose my weapon stats. I've got no idea how much damage my weapons do. I've got no shoes on, got no pants on. Like, but
that's our choice, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But the pants are. But I did want to wear shoes, and they're not showing up anymore. But if they'd said, look, these things are going to happen if we release this now, it'll be out in February, March, I would have been happy for that game, and I wouldn't lose that immersion that I'm having, and that little voice in the back of your head that goes, you're loving this, save because it's about to break again.
I think some people, I think you hit the nail on the head, actually. The pressure from the community, I wonder if that really did push them over the edge, because even since then, again, they're starting to get more death threats now because of the game being so broken. In fact, they've actually started targeting their children, which has become even more serious. And we dedicated a whole topic to the death threats a few weeks ago on Glass to the Wall. Sandy, I know that obviously you're sort of umming and ahhing about the game in general. Just hearing Luke and Mike talk about their experiences, even though Luke's having quite a negative experience, he's enjoying the content, he's enjoying the show. Come February, come March, when they have fixed those bugs, the game comes down in price. If they're still having their good time with it, you go on. Say you're going to jump in, right? You're going to jump in.
Oh yeah, 100%. I expect I will. But I might hop on the PC version rather than the console version, just because of that.
You're not going to buy a Xbox Series X or PS5 themed Cyberpunk console? Not that there is one.
Price.
If you could find one.
Indeed.
Okay. And so, Mike, what's the best parts of the game for you so far, and what's the worst parts of the game, of content rather than performance?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've had very few technical glitches and issues with it. But as Luke was saying, the world building and the scope is there in the game, so you kind of, as much as it's a really bad, like the launch is an absolute debacle with what's happened. Like 8 years in development, and it's still got these issues. It is still, there's something going on there, isn't there? You know what I mean? But then when you play the game, I'm starting to see. I'm still quite early on in the game, but you're starting to see that there is a scope there. It is sort of doing something a little bit different. It is, you know, the script is really, really tight. So these are all the things which are jumping out at me. And me and Lucas have been talking about some early missions, and we've already had some very different outcomes as well. So you know, I'm already thinking about, like, I can't wait to replay this and see what's going on, what are all these mechanics going on behind it. But I'm also surprised at how story focused it is as well. At the moment, the main storyline is very, I won't say linear, but it's much more focused than I was expecting it to be.
Is there a lot of Keanu?
Not so far, but I'm still quite early into the game. I've just met Keanu.
I'm a bit further ahead. I'm probably maybe 4 or 5 hours ahead, and even in terms of side missions, he's there every step of the way for me so far. I thought he would just be in those main story missions, but he seems to be popping in and out. Cool. I thought that was me that was doing that, Mike. There we go.
Oh, my battery's low on my phone.
Okay, brilliant.
He's nailing it as well. Like, I've been nailing the impressions, but he does a better Keanu than me.
Who?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Keanu
He's
does
been,
better
known, he's been known to do a good. Keanu
Yes, he
Reeves.
does. He does do a good one.
So interestingly, what I want to know about Cyberpunk. I wasn't necessarily brought in by that marketing. Obviously, I've been interested. There's TV spots all over. There's internet. There's adverts. Everything. It still hasn't convinced me ever so slightly. With the game being sort of this buggy until February, do you think they're going to do a renewed push around then? Do you think they're going to do a compensation package for anyone? I don't know, extra skins or whatever else for the people that have early adopted. Obviously, they're getting a lot of bad PR right now, and it's PR that Microsoft could have got if they perhaps released Halo Infinite early, or any other game early, to be honest. Luke, Mike, is there something that they could do to alleviate your issues with a couple of freebies? And if so, what could you imagine? I mean, I don't know what currently is available, but additional things for early adopters. Is there something you guys could think of that you guys could get, like a different type of car or something?
Yeah, vehicles will probably be it for me. A few,
cool.
yeah, a few custom vehicles, alternate clothing.
Yeah.
I think, Mike, you'd probably agree with me here that they're definitely gonna jump in with some kind of clothing brand or some kind of other game, and we're gonna have a whole clothing set dedicated to that. But that's all I need. The game, I need the game to work, and I need just some kind of recognition that we were there day one, persevering with these issues. I'm really grateful that I've got a PS5, because I don't think this would be working on my PS4, and I probably won't be playing it at the moment.
Yeah,
they should theme the extras they give out around glitches.
Yeah. Like a no face mask.
There are actually like some moments of glitching in the game, like where your character's glitching, and it is like, is the game crashing right now, or is it?
For you, that must be horrific. Yeah. Like just like.
Saying that, I mean, are there other games that you can think of that have had similar issues? I mean, I remember Assassin's Creed having a few issues, but it probably wasn't as bad as this, right?
Unity was particularly bad, wasn't it?
I can't think of anything this bad. New
about
Vegas?
Red Dead? Does Red Dead even? Did Red Dead Redemption 2 have any issues? I'm just trying to think of large open world games.
Yeah.
But I don't recall it.
I've never played a game that has had this serious an issue. I've never had to worry that game wouldn't run. But New Vegas used to crash on me all the time. But I think that was standard for everyone. But never to this extent. I've never been worried that I might not be able to play the game I've owned.
One thing that comes to mind is Ark, the very first Ark game. Survival Evolved was very technologically unsound. The fact that they managed to make a Switch port of that is still, to this day, mind-boggling. Like, I don't know how they did it. Apparently it runs at like 5 frames a second, but it exists.
Well, it's interesting you talk about Switch ports, because we're going to transition over to our next topic, and that is why EA and Activision perhaps don't necessarily like Nintendo. We haven't really seen much on the Switch coming from them, and like you said, Ark's been ported over. A few other games have been ported over, which we can talk about. But why not just stick on some Crash Bandicoot, or pull over a Call of Duty, or just whack Tony Hawk's on, right? Luke, you've definitely got a few opinions about this.
Yeah, why can't I take Tony Hawk's around portably?
Yeah.
I have no reason. I wish I could give you an answer as to why this isn't happening, or to have any kind of semblance of reasoning from EA and Activision, but it's complete nonsense. Like, why is this not happening? It's capable, and they would just be printing money, basically.
Yeah, I mean, what's the Switch at now? Are we probably at about 70 million sold? Is that right? Does that sound something like that?
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah. Now, I think the sub story that we got from EA before is that the other consoles had a higher install base. Activision never really said anything similar to that, but this console has a huge amount of people using it. They have a huge install base. People are buying games for the system more so than ever, or just games in general. Games like Crash Bandicoot 4, right? It's an IP that you would think would fit quite well with Nintendo. I could imagine the Crash Insane trilogy did quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy, I mean, what do you reckon? Is there a game from Activision or EA that you think should perhaps be on Switch?
See, the hardest thing is should be on Switch. I mean, I would love to see more Star Wars games, like more of the new ones coming through to Switch. Heck, even bring over Battlefront 2 in some form. Like, just scale it down, blur it up. It'll run. If it runs as smoothly as Doom, it's a buy from me.
I'd love the EA CEO just saying that, just like blur it up.
It's off. It's fine. It's white. It's fine.
Would you take more retro stuff from that catalog? Because obviously we've seen, and not just, it didn't just come to Switch. These games also did come to PS4 and Xbox One as well. But we had Star Wars Racer released this year. We had Jedi Outcast and Jedi. What's the other one? Jedi Academy?
Academy?
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
Academy.
No Dark Forces 2 yet.
Yeah. we've had those ported to Switch. Could we see things like Battlefront 2, which was, on the PS2? The original Battlefront games, not the sort of newer versions. Would you be happy with those?
I'd be happy with those. Battlefront 2 from Factor 5 was that was Factor 5, right?
I don't think it was.
Oh no, maybe it was
not
not.
Battlefront 2, no.
No.
Oh, I forgot.
I think
that.
it was just Luke.
it was was it Pandemic?
Yes.
I think it was Pandemic. Yeah.
Ironically named.
Yeah. That's a video
yes.
band.
But yeah,
Right.
maybe those, or
Yeah,
even
thanks, Mike.
ports of Rogue Squadron and that series, because that was Nintendo.
Yeah.
Most-
Why have
so-
we not got any Shadows of the Empire?
Yep, Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, a Rogue Squadron trilogy that Factor 5 were creating for the Wii. Bring that over to the Switch. It surely should be able to handle it. The guys,
It was
guys that
Pandemic. You're right.
yeah, but the guys that did Star Wars Racer and the other guys, I think their names Aspire. They said they have more planned, but at the moment we don't really have any other Star Wars games. We've got Lego Star Wars: A Skywalker Saga, I think, coming next year. But that's it. It's mental to me. Surely it's the USP of most Switch most of the Switch owners would be into Star Wars. It's criminal. Mike, what about you? Is there EA Activision games that you feel are missing on the Switch, or that should be perhaps a little bit more enhanced on Switch?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, the lack of support, does it? I mean, I know they have to make concessions to bring games onto Switch, and maybe that's just sort of not part of their, financial forecasts or whatever to factor that kind of expense in, and instead they're focusing on older games, bringing them back. Obviously, there's a big nostalgic audience for Switch. But in terms of what they could bring back that's missing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, they usually would do a Call of Duty. Call of Duty is such a big seller. It's even surprising that they're not making the effort to do a stripped-back version of that on the Switch, because historically we've seen them do that on the Wii. We've seen them do that on like the DS and stuff, haven't we? So
The last time I remember a Call of Duty game on a Nintendo console was Black Ops 3 on Wii U, I think.
yeah,
Maybe Black Ops 2, can't remember. But yeah, around that sort of era.
maybe that has something to do with their decision making currently.
I think it's probably a lot of effort for them. I can imagine it would sell well, but they perhaps want to dedicate development resources to their sort of Xbox, PC, and
Yeah.
PlayStation sort of iterations.
They also kind of like half step it as well, don't they? Like the version of FIFA which they put on the Switch a few years ago is just not up to the standard of FIFA today. It's a bit more of a stripped back version.
So I reviewed FIFA 18 at the time, and I think, I don't know, maybe 19. I had FIFA 18 nonetheless, and I found it to be a good game.
Yeah.
But the Switch had just come out. Nintendo had been starved of the FIFA franchise for so long. I think the previous version was FIFA 13 on the DS, 3DS even. I think that was the last version all the way to FIFA 18, which is just crazy. It's one of the biggest selling games in the country, in the world, and it doesn't have a Nintendo version. FIFA 18 came out. It was basically FIFA 14 that was then just put onto Switch with new kits, faces, and all that malarkey, but it was running a very old engine. FIFA 19 came out, and they did bring forward some of the new modes. So they had some modes such as Mystery Ball and King of the Hill, which they dubbed it as a separate mode, and I can't remember what they call it now. But it was essentially just the same game again. But it did have a little bit more FIFA 19 compared to FIFA 18, and so people were willing to forgive it again. And I think as a game goes on a portable, it plays quite well. It plays great.
Do we know if it sold very well or?
Well, this is the thing. I think it must do, because then when FIFA 20 Legacy Edition came out and FIFA 21 Legacy Edition comes out, and they're selling them at what they call back a stripped back price, but it's still $44.99. Those games are carbon copies, and EA have admitted this. Mm-hmm. This is basically FIFA 19 copied and pasted with new kits and faces. That is it. The same game. That to me is. That's probably a worse issue than Cyberpunk, because that's an inherent issue that EA have now got, where they're giving us what we've asked for, which are games, but where we're asking them to create a new FIFA like how they're doing with the other systems, which often see large discounts around this time of year, whereas the Switch version is probably still going at full recommended retail price. You guys FIFA fans, Sandy, Luke?
Yeah. I had 18 like you did, and I stopped there in terms of Switch because I know that'll cover everything I need. And I think they think about it, don't they? Like what child, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, at the height of loving football is going to want to play with the wrong kits, with the wrong team. They're not even going to notice. I've got many friends that I work with who are asking me, my son wants the new FIFA, what's the difference? And it's like they'll have their new kits on, but you'll still have to pay 44 quid for it.
Yeah, I do think it's really bad. FIFA 19, don't get me wrong, it plays well enough for a handheld, for a portable. It's great. I think the main issue, and for that demographic as well, is Ultimate Team. Ultimate Team is slightly different on the Switch compared to the Xbox and PlayStation systems. In fact, I don't even think it has the latest Ultimate Team updates to it, which I can't imagine would have been too much effort for EA to really kind of put in there. So we've got a tale of two issues here, whereas EA aren't putting certain games on Switch. I mean, there's no Madden game, right? It's crazy to me. Activision aren't putting certain games, or games at all, really, on Switch, apart from Crash Team Racing, Crash, Insane Trilogy, Spyro, Reignited Trilogy.
Yeah, Spyro's on, I think.
Yeah. I can't think of any other Activision games. EA did they put, is it Unravel?
It's an EA game. Unravel's on there, yeah.
And I felt like they put another similar indie-esque game on there as well. I think Sandy hit the nail on the head, though. It is the EA sort of platform of Star Wars games that would be really good. That's the one I'm missing most.
They've got some cool legacy stuff like Bullfrog and Westwood. Command and Conquer. They did bring Command and Conquer as well, didn't they? Mm-hmm. So it might be cool to see some more of that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, maybe EA's solution for FIFA shouldn't be a new skin charged as a full game every year, and should just be, here's your 2020 DLC for the new teams and faces.
It's what PES does.
Yeah, PES did that. I mean, PES was still sold as a standalone game, but yeah, it was a season update this year, and they were much more transparent about that. The reason why PES did that is they wanted additional time and resource to plug in PES 2021. But saying that, I mean, we talk about the lack of EA and Activision games on Switch. There's not too many Konami games either, and there's no PES. There's the Castlevania Legacy Edition, I want to say.
Yeah,
that's on there.
Their collections are there.
Yeah.
Only
But-
an hour.
Most
What about like
Most
portable
importantly-
ops?
Well, I was about to say, most
It's
importantly, there
portable.
is no Metal Gear Solid on there. And that is a big issue for many of us here on this channel, because in Metal Gear Solid, there are characters that have some of the best accents in video game history. And that is our final topic for today, video game accents, and the accents that we've seen and heard throughout history. And I'm going to start, obviously, with Metal Gear Solid. Personally, I think this is the epitome of great games and accents in games. And I'm going to tell you why. When you look through Twin Snakes and a few of the other later Metal Gear Solid games, the accents have been softened down. But in the original Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation, the accents were very, very strong. So if you look at Mei Ling, Chinese accent, really, really well done. If you look at Naomi Hunter, she had this sort of African sort of Britishness about her. She had sort of a Rhodesian, Zimbabwean, sort of British Victorian English that they would have over there. And then, spoiler alert, Liquid Snake has a very sort of pantomime English villain accent to him. And obviously David Hayter, we all know, plays one of the best sort of accented characters of Solid Snake of all time. But to me, having accents in games, I think, is a really good way of getting people involved in the game, getting people sort of in touch with the game. Do you guys have any examples where you feel like there is a great video game, or is there any underrepresented sort of nation when it comes to accents in games? Anyone?
I thought Luke's dog was answering.
Yeah, dogs are massively underrated. They will be put down soon. Yeah, as a guy who doesn't have an accent, yeah, I've got no distinguishable accent, I don't think. But Edward Kenway was probably Mike and our biggest representative for Wales, I think. We had to do a bit of searching to find some other stuff that had that kind of Welsh representation, but he was actually listed on the top of the article that we found. So I think it's him.
I don't think your dog agrees.
No, I'm gonna go put the dog down now.
Ironically. So Edward Kenway, you say. Now, for the people who are not as familiar with who that is there any sort of particular characters Edward Kenway's played that we all know?
Constantine. That was the same guy. Matt Ryan is the actor, and he is from Swansea. So he played Edward Kenway in Black Flag, who is a Swansea pirate, who every so often had a bit of a Welsh twang to him. But
We're talking about, sorry, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, right?
yeah. The main character in Assassin's Creed Black Flag is from Swansea. But
there you go.
you wouldn't even know. Every so often he might have a little bit of a twang, but where I live and where Mike's from, what are we, quarter of an hour, 20 minutes from Swansea?
Oh yeah.
And Edward Kenway does not sound like me.
It's
Anyway.
a lovely night out, yeah.
It is. It's a beautiful place to be, and
Also, people from Swansea don't sound like Kenway either, you know?
no. Like
They're a bit more strong.
strong is a nice way of putting it.
Can we hear a Swansea accent from one of you, just for our international listeners?
It's a lot deeper, I'd say, and there's a
Go
lot
on,
of
go on,
love.
just introduce yourself in a Swansea accent.
All right, love. I'm from Swansea.
I don't know about you, Sandy, but I couldn't hear any difference. Sounded the same.
Kind of similar, yeah.
It's similar, but yeah, ever so slightly classier.
And what about you, Sandy? I mean, have we heard many sort of Scottish people in video games, or any other sort of people from places that you're thinking of?
I mean, Scotland doesn't have a lot of representation in video games. I did look it up earlier, and there's like one list that has Alucard from Castlevania on it, which confused me because I don't think he's Scottish. I don't think he's ever sounded Scottish, so
Was the one that I told you Scottish? Was he on there?
Scrooge McDuck wasn't on there. Funnily enough, even though I'm pretty sure he is meant to have a Scottish accent, so that's also
This
confusing.
is a travesty.
I
But
feel like there
did-
have been Scottish people in games before. There must have been.
Yeah, there definitely is. I remember being excited about a Scottish character in a game recently. I just can't remember what the game was, which is very frustrating.
I feel like me,
Um,
you, and Mike
Yeah,
got a lump together as well in terms of like Celtic,
Yeah,
Yeah,
rural
well,
Celtic.
I was going to say, sticking with the CD Projekt Red theme, there was a lot of colloquial indigenous accents in Witcher 3,
that's true.
where I think there was a lot of Welsh and there was a lot of Scottish in there actually as well.
Oh, and
Uh,
Meryl from Dragon Age 2 is Welsh.
Uh,
The game
Actually-
that springs to my mind. Oh, go on, Sandy.
The new Bravely game has a Scottish main character in the group of protagonists, and he has some excellent one-liners in the demo. It's very funny if
Fun-
you know what he's saying.
Front and centre, that is.
We'll definitely have to pay attention. But thinking of along the lines of RPGs, which is probably where we see a lot more voice acting anyway and stuff like that. But the one thing that sticks out to me is Xenoblade, Japanese developed game. Everyone in that game has, or at least in the localized version, has a British accent of some sort. And for us in the UK, obviously, we can identify a lot of these accents. You know, they're up and down the country throughout the UK. And the reason for this was that the original Xenoblade Chronicles wasn't going to be localized until Nintendo of Europe decided to localize it. And they used British voice actors, some of them relatively famous as well, here, at least here in our isles. And they've kind of stuck with those accents, really. It'd be interesting to see how Americans feel about that, because I know they don't tend to understand our more... to be honest, I honestly think that any Americans that are listening right now can only kind of understand the bits that I'm saying, and you guys just get lumped in.
Get some subtitles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Some subtitles for you guys. But no, it's just true. I'd be really interested to see how American audiences handle that, because there are some strong accents that I can remember from those games. There must be a Scottish person in there as well.
Oh, I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles has excellent voice acting. It's hilarious.
But the reason why I brought up Metal Gear Solid, and I'm just going to circle back around to that, I honestly think that Liquid Snake, you know, when he says things like "Have at you, Snake," it's like, oh dear brother. It's so British. It's egged on so much as well, even more. But I think his accent is like the evil English sort of James Bond villain who tends to be Russian. But in this case, it did feel really, really well put and really well done. Didn't even know if the voice actor's English either.
Famously voiced by, who's it, Luke?
Who?
Liquid.
Isn't
Liquid.
Liquid the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy?
Oh,
So his name is Cam Clark.
Cam Clark.
Am I mixing it up?
I'm pretty sure he's a Ninja Turtle.
That's what I thought he was. I thought he was one of them, like Raphael or
He's
someone.
Leonardo.
Leonardo.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Rob Paulson's Raphael. There's a little bit of
That's
pointless
it.
knowledge for you. Who's also Pinky.
Well, he does a very good Liquid Snake. That's for
Does.
sure.
It's that leadership potential, I suppose.
And he's American as well.
In terms of accents, there was one instance recently, I'll say recently, it's probably like 3 years ago now, where they released Ape Escape 2 on the PlayStation Store using only the British version of the game. So they had British accents for Britain and American accents for America,
Wow.
but they released the British one everywhere. And Americans were playing it and going, this isn't the game I remember. What is this? Why are there voices like this?
What was it like? Get in the net! Get in the net! I know.
Actually, there's a really-
I love how like you're so much more English than me, even though you live pretty much where I live, and that was like nothing like an English accent.
I was trying to do a Cockney.
You did the hands.
Yeah. I didn't know if I was going to do Scottish or Cockney or Welsh, but ruined it.
It's not necessarily in video games, but I think the reason actually why we brought up this topic is something that we were talking about is The Mandalorian, which, by the way, deserves a video game. But The Mandalorian, currently streaming on Disney Plus right now. We won't have any spoilers here, but what I will say is in all of the Star Wars series, the bad guys, the Imperial enemies, whether they be the sort of admirals or whatever they are in the sort of Star Destroyers, have always been English or British of some sort, and I believe that's because all the films have been filmed here in the UK, so they've probably just hired some extras from around the local area. But in The Mandalorian, they're American, and it irks me. I'm like, no, that's not right. These guys that are sitting in the AT-ATs and the destroyers and everything like that, they should be. There's no AT-ATs in. I don't even know why I said that. There is actually one AT-AT, isn't there? Was it ATST? I can't remember the acronyms.
There's an ATST, yeah.
Yeah, in one episode. But they're normally British, and it irks me that they're not. Does it throw you off whenever you think a character should be more accented than they are? I'm just trying to think of an example of where that would make sense.
It throws me off in The Mandalorian. Like, I thought it was a requirement that to join the Empire you had to be English. I was all in for that. And it does throw me. It was a nice little distinction between the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys are English. The good guys have that heroic Han Solo American gung ho accent and attitude, while we're more logical and just mow them down.
I guess I'm just trying to think, because obviously the good guys in the movie, Rey and Finn and all that lot.
Rey's English.
Yeah, Rey's English, but she puts on an American accent, right?
No, she's British in Star Wars.
Oh yes, no, she is.
But Finn is
English. Finn is English, but he puts on an American accent, which just throws me off. Sorry, I knew I'd get that one way around or another. Are the Imperial
Chewie's
guys
English?
C-3PO? Are the Imperials in that sort of later sequels trilogy? Are they American or British? I think they're British.
Oh, they're British, yeah.
Hugh Grant,
British.
Scottish guy.
Hux guy.
Yeah, Dominic Gleeson.
Yeah,
Scottish.
and
Scottish sounding.
and Aid Edmondson.
Yes, Aid Edmondson is like the second in command.
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, if you're going to be evil in something, you have to be British, because British people are evil.
Yeah.
That's...
You heard it here first.
Never any Welsh
It's a common
accents, that's what
connector.
we're saying.
Yeah, I
No
do
Welsh
like how
Imperials.
Scott said the British are evil. You didn't say the English, you said the British are evil. So
I'm always
handy
very, very political.
of you to be inclusive.
Actually, isn't diplomacy part of the Imperials' code of conduct?
Yeah, join the first order of diplomacy. But no. Okay, guys. Well, let's just wrap off today's show with what we're all playing at the moment. Sandy, let's start with you. Is there anything that you're currently going through, either for a review or that you're playing personally?
So obviously I'm away from my big consoles just now, so I've shelved Yakuza for a bit. I'm currently replaying Breath of the Wild. Actually, I've been exploring its map, finding loads of just places and quests I've never even heard of before, which is bizarre to me, but having a grand old time with that.
Have you hunted down all the shrines yet? Have you done 120, 150 shrines if you've got the DLC?
I've done more of them than I did last time, but I've not found them all yet. No.
Okay. Keep hunting those Korok seeds as well, I'm guessing.
Indeed.
Just get that poop.
Yeah.
Poop gathering.
Yeah. Golden poo. Mike, so you've been playing Cyberpunk. I was about to say Spider-Punk, which would have been a very interesting game. You've been playing Cyberpunk. Is there anything else that you've been playing on top of that?
Cyberpunk's shuffled everything out. Ori's still on the back burner, whatever. I really want to complete that game, but at the moment Cyberpunk has taken my affections.
Fair enough. And Luke, again, Cyberpunk's been in your sort of hands. Is there anything else that you've been playing with? Oh dear, I did not mean to go out like that.
What was the question?
What else do you mean? Like, what other games have you been playing?
Oh, games. Yeah. Between the holding. Cyberpunk. Yes. And Tony Hawk Between the Crashes. Oh, and Planet Coaster for review.
Do you know what? I knew I was going. I don't know why. I just that sentence came out like so lagged. um, I've been playing Doom Eternal on Switch. It's been good. Like you said, Sandy, at the start of the show, it's been quite fun. There's a lot of people that have been having fun. I don't know if we actually recorded that now, thinking back to it. But Doom Eternal does it doesn't look as good as it does on the sort of next gen consoles, obviously. But it is definitely a lot of fun on the Switch. I'm having a lot of fun with it. There's, even though it looks blurry, frame rate wise, it's performing. I can't have any complaints about that. So yeah, I've been playing that, and I've also been playing Tetris Effect Connected. I've been playing it on Xbox Series S. It's on Game Pass. I don't have a PSVR. I have played it in PSVR, but only sort of as a demo at events. Have you guys played Tetris Effect?
Yeah, Mike and I play it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I can't. I don't know why I've not. Like, if I'd known how good this game was, like if I'd probably sat down and played it at those events more, I might have bought a PSVR for that. I might have bought a PlayStation for it. I'm glad it's on Xbox. I've been basically playing it at night, turning out the lights, using my headset as well rather than having TV audio, and it is so immersive. It is insane. The soundtrack is great.
That sounds like the best way to play it, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it even says, doesn't it, when
it does tell you
this
to
is
put
best
headphones
played with headphones. So
yeah, which is why I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that, because I don't normally connect my headset to my controller, but it is definitely very enjoyable. Okay then, guys, well, thank you very much for another show. A little bit longer than normal, but we had so much to talk about. Next week is going to be Christmas week, so we're going to probably shuffle up the times of when the show is going to be posted, but we're going to be talking some of the Cubed 3 awards that we're going to put out there, so you guys definitely have a good show. We've definitely got a few things to talk about next week. But guys, if you shout out your handles, and then we'll all leave. Sandy.
I'm at Squidgy Buffalo.
Luke.
at Lem207.
Mike.
I'm at movement with no e's _matter.
and I'm Flynn Neal. But for now, guys, that's everything.